As she looked at her 9th coffee cup while observing the black liquid with every tremor of her caffeine, a ripple packed with it operated the first contact station's clock. The time on Epsilon's wall was 3:47 a.m. Earth Standard Time, yet time had completely vanished. Referring to the 6th cup, the doctor said the AI at the station added that the Curie delegation will be happy. Dock in around 15 minutes, Zena muttered, just taking another sip. Tell them I'm doing something significant. She wasn't involved in xenobiological research. Unless counting the number of cups of coffee required to accomplish jitters is transcended by consciousness as a doctor of research, let me remind you that you specifically asked to be there. For their arrival, something regarding not allowing those obstinate officials to compromise you. For the first time, xenodiplomacy fails. Contact Xena moaned as she thought of her. Yesterday's caffeine-induced bravado was fine. Okay, but I'll bring my coffee with me. The airy ship docked gracefully, as one could anticipate from a society it had mastered the speed of light journey for millennia. As the airlock was cycling, Xena pressed her rumpled lab coat into place and made an effort to appear responsible. The aliens are a symbol of humanity. That surfaced were nothing less than amazing crystal creatures that appeared to have been carved from a live diamond. Light being refracted by their bodies in every motion is a dazzling cascade, generated a faint chiming noise similar to wind chimes made of crystals. They were magnificent, which made what occurred next, which was far worse than Curie's previous flawless geometric configuration of crystalline facets, move forward with purposeful grace. Lifted what seemed like an appendage in a polite salutation and started talking. Its voice is a pleasing blend of resonant tones and melodies that honor humans, exemplifying the universal translator with a stiff monotone that failed to convey the musical in any way. The caliber of their speech prior. For you as viewers of the Magnificent, the Galactic Council will evaluate Earth's readiness of civilization to join the greater spacefaring community species that we have examined, including your transmissions, at which point it occurred. Perhaps the coffee or lack of sleep was to blame. Perhaps it was the ludicrous difference between the majestic beauty of the Kier and the voice of a flat robot emanating from the translator. Regardless of the reason, Xena snorted, which then became a giggle. The chuckle turned into a full-fledged lack of sleep, caffeine, and laughter. The Kaleri delegation shrank back in what seemed to be a terror crystal that vibrated at a frequency that activated a number of the humans on one of the station's warning sensors. They chimed in fear and it showing an aggressive, domineering voice while keeping up direct optical contact. Such assurance struck a chord with another act, hostilely interrogating a formal, Xena struggled not to laugh during the introduction. She did, but just their response made it worse. She was now crying uncontrollably. This required her to rest against the wall to support the crystal of the lead Kier. Structure changed to reflect their electory. Later, cultural briefing would determine as a pattern of defensive resonance. We weren't told that people might show off their superior position in order to, I'm not Xena. At first I gasped between chuckles. I'm not proving anything. She had just another episode of giggles. The key and their chimes nestled close. Assuming what Xena's even lack of sleep is known to cause, the person's anxious tones do not convey terror. The translator whispered to another. Picking it up hardly at all must be really assured of its power as a species. Should we pay homage? And now someone else chimed softly. Wait. Xena was able to get her at last. Keeping the laughs in check is all a misunderstanding. Hiccup interrupted her. This led the delegation as a whole to flinch together as Sonic is deployed. Assaults while making an effort to communicate that Curie, the lead, saw with awe. inspiring things like an informal demonstration of power. We have to notify the council right away, as the delegation quickly withdrew to their ship, chiming in on Xena's attractive appearance. She slipped down the wall in a panic, somehow sit on her coffee cup on the floor, still intact, sat by her physician. The AI at the station said after a brief pause, "I think that silence could have been avoided." Xena took a closer look at her coffee, followed by the quickly leaving Curie ship. "I need more, coffee," which I think could be a component of the issue Doctor stopped talking and Commander Rex Martinez. The coffee maker was not just any day, but the day trademarked, but the type he wished he had selected a less complex profession, such as diffusing nuclear weapons or furious wrestling. "Bears, let me clarify," he said, squeezing his nose bridge as the holographic assembly was discussed. "Of extraterrestrial emissionaries throughout the galactic. The Council is furious because one of the commanders, our xeno-scientists, chuckled. The tentacles of the VXI representative writhed. Your species appears to be in peril. The capacity to generate battle cries while keeping eye contact is a beneficial idea. Had recorded the Kalari delegation's report was the most. It's not a battle cry, but it's..." The Zolan ambassador was interrupted by a drifting bioluminescent gas cloud. "We found even more unsettling details about the lights of humanity. Alarm pulse. You maintain that there are predators in your living areas. You mean pets. They acknowledge it. Tentacles of Verx X bound themselves in such real knots that they don't even attempt to disclaim their authority to slaughter animals." A sequence of pictures appeared on the people walking dogs, on a conference screen, horror of horrors, and playing with cats, allowing these lethal carnivores to rest on their beds. "Look," Martinez gave it another go. "These are animals that have been domesticated and are innocuous." He was interrupted by a keening in a high tone when someone played footage of a human infant dragging a patient. They begin training the Rottweiler's tail. Their juveniles to supervise predators from another delegate is a silicon-based infancy being referred to as Petrix, changed their crystalline structure with trepidation, and what we've found is even more unsettling to people on a regular basis. Martinez uses a poisonous drug for fun, looked at the flask and his coffee cup. Wait a minute in the drawer of his desk. They have developed such strong digestive systems capable of handling toxins to amuse oneself, the Petrix crystal. They call one whose facets spin in excitement. Such a customary happy hour, most likely since they practiced construction throughout that time. Their poisonous immunity isn't what the Zoland cloud expanded during happy hour. Significantly, their ability to pursue is horrifying. We examine their pursuit of their victim according to marathon customs. Until it gives way to fatigue, our athletic contests held for the purpose of sport. The assembly's collective gasp. If not, it would have been hilarious, resulting in a diplomatic interstellar crisis at that time. Dr. Blackwood made the decision to bring what into his office seemed to be her 15th cup of coffee. The foreign representatives shrank back at the "I'm glad to see the steaming cup." Talking about the circumstances, she stated, taking a long drink while keeping eye contact and communicating with the Vexi agent, whom Xena Martinez snarled at and instantly passed out. "You're not making my lack of sleep any better. I'm running entirely on spite in 3 days. And coffee." She smiled at the moment. She vibrated in the Petrix Delegatabra. "Horrible." The Zolan said they freely acknowledge the use of chemical stimulants to prolong their search skills, that they don't even require Martinez to sleep while observing his prospects of a tranquil settlement vanish like a water drop in a plasma reactor. Would you all kindly allow me to describe the commander's assistant's explosion? We have another person coming into the office, sir. Circumstance, someone shared images of the regular paintball competition at the station. The hologram on the galactic net chaos broke out in the assembly as they practiced battle while donning vibrant hues to humiliate their rivals by simulating the arrogance of using warfare for entertainment. It's blatant psychological warfare. Martinez sprang out of his seat as the aliens persisted in their panic. He reached for his flask but changed his mind. When he observed multiple delegates documenting his movements, most likely for a study on the intake of poison by human rituals, "Sir," his helper muttered, "do I need to inform them of the station's next?" Martinez mumbled, "Cats, please, no. You can be sure they'll purr loudly," stopped him as the station's mittens, Orange Tabby, a resident, selected that precise time to leap up on his desk and start kneeling his documents. The person the commander talks to, his combat beast, the Zozon Cloud, passed through a number of everyone's mittens' alarmed hues. Just a cat decided to knock at that same moment. Martinez's coffee cup was removed from the desk while keeping his gaze fixed on you. Even their predatory partners exhibit dominance actions. That the Petrix was essentially done. Dr. Blackwood is now vibrating apart after having been observing this development with the disinterested amusement with the actual sleeping deprived, decided to laugh at this point. The whole alien assembly, once more concurrently, retreated from their Martina holographic projectors. I quit declaring to no specific person that I'm too old to give up. The galactic Earth was recently assigned a class by the Council. X might be an Omega-level society. Based on what we've shown, what Grace considered her skills, what skills we've all performed, are playing with cats, laughing, and drinking coffee. The helper nodded precisely, referring to us as the laughing species. Death consumes poison and commands creatures. Martinez turned to face Dr. Blackwood. "It's your fault," she shrugged, and took another coffee drink while caressing. Who had claimed Martinez's mittens? At least they're not using a keyboard as a bed. Inquiring about human regeneration, but the Fexi, who had recently regained awareness of enhanced human regeneration, Blackwood ran on with a crazy smile. "Pure lack of sleep, yet we can now grow again. Yesterday my skin sustained a paper cut and it's mostly healed." The gathering erupted in poetrition as Martina silently opened a new panic. He took his flask out of his desk drawer and determined that there were days when you simply had to embrace the pandemonium if he decided to call off the station's forthcoming karaoke event. Martinez took a lengthy time when the assistant asked, "Don't drink yet. Let's see how substantially worse it may reach a point in the background information." Dr. Blackwood began, telling a scared audience about human hiccups, viewers from space. The Galactic Council's Studeheift, an emergency team for anthropological research, examined their results with increasing terror in their observation room on board Epsilon, the first contact station. It was covered in displays that showed several forms of human amusement, a phrase that was generating a lot of discussion among Dr. Kix, a tentacled scholar and xenologist from the Hydran Academy, that, as you can see, at their central display, co-workers' historical records are, unsettlingly, the screen displayed images from the collection of horror films. Researchers recoiled when a person in a hockey mask chased after escaping victims, recording the Kix, their ancient warriors, proceeded in the manner of this Jason figure who apparently it was impossible to kill through traditional methods. Take note of the primitive headgear, the most worrying protective headgear. The idea of bringing life to an end by force was established early, since each of the events in Peter's Gix et al. Was added as a mostly made up of nice and light intentions. Is their record of the Knight's hands that they suffered and the initial contact situations. They indicated A watching screen is playing? Interesting cultural insights from aliens. Kix observed that they correctly forecasted that their initial reaction upon encountering aliens, it would be a struggle down there in the maintenance tunnels, blissfully ignorant of the cafeteria of the station of the human cinema. Misinterpretation that took place above Dr. Blackwood was establishing a completely new diplomatic. What do you mean by too spicy incident? Questioned the appalled alien cafeteria employees slathering spicy sauce on, there are only habanero eggs in her synthetics. Sauce? Not even the ghost pepper. Environmental sensors in the cafeteria started loud threats about chemical warfare. Chemical irritants are consumed by humans for food. The chef is a floating group of gas pods known as glicks, pushed back against the counter. Their immune system must be extremely strong. It's simply spicy sauce. Advanced. Ooh, I objected to having a big mouthful here. To attempt 3 emergency deactivation of contamination protocols concurrently, Commander Martinez was going through a personal dilemma. The monthly team building event at the station, there was a workout going on, and he had forgotten to alert the extraterrestrial observers regarding, as you can see, paintball. It has been reported, senior researchers assault on the live feed of the Galactic Council to humans, participate in frequent combat simulations. They split out into groups identified by bright hues that don't fear being seen. Such assurance to their adversaries beneath Dr. Blackwood's team on the field had Martinez's squad surrounded by an improvised barricade, where you are Commander Xena, who is tactically inferior, yelling, "Still high on caffeine, give up," or confront the repercussions of human use even during training, psychological warfare. Zach's report went on to detail how they declared their superior position, providing their rivals an opportunity to provide an evident indication of their faith in blue paint all over Victory. Martinez was losing terribly. Blackwood yelled back, "This is meant to foster teamwork." Yes, she laughed during the activity, and my team is going to construct a pyramid of success on your frantically defeating the alien onlookers and updating their human combat reports. Customs in the observation room again, the anthropological group had proceeded to examine human social media. Not handling things well, they talked through meticulously selected image sequences known as kicks, described memes by gazing a little terribly, each one covered with layers of cultural relevance and meaning. And they were only starting to figure out what this is. Professor Yawl indicated a screen. Yes, people call this one, and it's okay. Seems to be a contemplation of their animal's capacity to maintain composure in literally blazing environs and their exceptional ability to withstand force. The issue peaked when Xena, immediately following her paintball triumph and still consuming a lot of coffee and hot sauce, chose to attempt elucidating the no research team she barged. You have access to their observation room. Despite appearances, horror films aren't historical records. They're simply tales we tell for pleasure. They produce these situations for Kix's amusement. You mean tentacles folded in shock? Imagination is enjoyable for people. Survival situations effectively when you phrased it in this manner, and Professor Ixal included their flickering with anxiety. You purposefully ingest chemicals that irritate, yes. It increases the enjoyment of the hot sauce, flavor that they have developed to discover one of the juniors' pleasures in suffering. Xena tried to listen, but the researchers fainted at the wrong moment, and Xena found it a little unfair that the rat sack made Xena feel worse. Once more, the paintball activity is purely recreational and serves as a team-building exercise. For the defense of organizational unity. The color of Kix change to a Xena training in xenobiology is acknowledged as it is filled with existential fear. Frequently participates in military games. To put it that way, social connection, Professor. These memes sound awful. Wixie, indicate the screens you utilize. Them to deal with potentially upsetting circumstances through humor, yes, but the psychological fortitude they possess is what Kix revealed. They face an unprecedented amount of their anxieties through combat in their free time. Ingest poisons for enjoyment and relaxation. Shared poisons for enjoyment and relaxation. Shared poisons for enjoyment and relaxation. Shared poisons for their fluid responses in serving a never-ending scroll and hot wings. Some memes that she had to acknowledge were that humanity did glance at the extraterrestrial eyes. Severe, would it be beneficial if I clarified? Are you referring to the recordings of cat videos of your defeated predator allies? The professor yells, like her dimmer. Yolata Shao Kulebers, ones you share to show off your dominance of one species over another. Beast's Xena's mouth opened and shut, then grabbed her coffee as she was taking a long drink while keeping unintentional eye contact with the clearly trembling Kovic. Worse, as the human diplomat exhibits dominance while ingesting, very quickly, poisons, yelled. Quickly record this for the council, observing her lack of fear in Xena, side-looking at her in our presence. I need something now that my coffee cup is empty. More powerful than coffee to handle this. They contain more potent poisons than the others. Conscientious researchers withdrew in the moment of terror when Martinez's voice came over the intercom at the station. Documented for exhibition, Xena. Blackwood, we have another scenario with our guests. They watched a video of a human being. The study team burst out sneezing and they are able to release biological panic, is firing missiles. At will, a form of defense? Is it an assault mechanism that Xena examined? She shrugged and looked around at the chaos. Chose to go to the dining hall for dinner. At this point, she thought, more spicy sauce. There was no way they could misunderstand anything else she was about to throw at him. Obviously incorrect, but that's a tale that's involving the night of karaoke. And for it, the Galactic Council was unprepared. The emergency of exposure to human culture. The emergency meeting of the Galactic Council was, at hour 14, the Great Chamber, typically an example of respectful conversation, had deteriorated into anything like a panic room. It was created by a nervous high counselor, architect, vexer, a creature of unadulterated energy contained in a tentent. The Crystal Matrix ceremony demanded, since the evidence in front of us is unprecedented. Let's go over the results. Regarding this person, activation of a holographic display depicting people in diverse settings, chief researcher convicts are visible, nervously tentacled at the controls. Environmental science has been mastered by humans. Adaptability to an alarming extent. Look at the display that shows skiers. They are able to endure below freezing conditions by creating levels of protection that they refer to as kicks, described the outfits, but more, most significantly, they engage in this activity for fun. In horror, the council muttered, and extreme heat caused Key to get much worse, changed to a beach party video. They voluntarily subject themselves to solar radiation for aesthetic reasons. Tanning catastrophic, much worse, shout is what they call it. No species can be a member of the gaseous council. You decide to disregard environmental risk factors, but, Kix went on, their tentacles are trembling, created technologies to alter the temperature of the entire habitat at will. These gadgets are known as air conditioners, and you mean Vex Thor's energy form. ears flashed in shock that they just won't embrace their surroundings inherent tell just how they change their world. To accommodate their tastes, the following human cellular structure was displayed, especially the process of healing most. Their regenerating nature is unsettling. Capabilities, Kicks focused on a therapeutic. Their bodies were automatically sliced by paper. This technique is known as damage repair. Mend and handle it as fully as possible. Natural, you must exaggerate a bit. A member of the Crystalline Council chimed in. I wish I could see this with skepticism. Ticks are educational recordings. The screen showed a time-lapse of a Tisker. The first star Vex is healing a tiny cut with shock. Thor's energy matrix pulsed. They simply sprout new layers of protection, and Kicks was now almost vibrating. These social networking sites are used by them to exchange details regarding their capabilities. Take a look at this display that displayed a number of memes on pulling all-nighters who consume alarming amounts of alcohol or coffee and getting by with little sleep. They take pride in their capacity to ignore the need for rest in their bodies. They convert their biological advantages into a novel concept known as relevant content counselor. Showing up for their initial meeting lifted an appendage. Maybe we're not overreacting. Strong, as Kevik was interrupted by playing recent station footage, situations in which Dr. Blackwood laughed while the commander kept eye contact. Bartine sips coffee while she files reports on his own species that actions during the paintball competition. They employ chemicals in the hot sauce incident. He yelled, "Warfare as a condiment." Their children rehearse military situations. They create emotional ties for pleasure. They can regenerate highly with predators. Counselor Vexer summoned everyone to order by releasing a burst of unadulterated energy that turned off the holographic display for the time being. Shows coworkers we need to talk to logically. What are our choices? Kicks brought up another screen, so we've been keeping an eye on their global information network. Specifically, anything known as Reddit. It seems that many have already believed they could be what their space orcs, as they are known in science fiction, are. Knowing what they can do, the council chamber exploded once more. Not just conscious. Take a look at this. They make fun of it. They compose stories on the HFY subreddit regarding being the most hazardous species. For pleasure, they knew Vexa in the galaxy. All of this energy is condensed in shock. While they were aware of their potential for worse, Kick displayed a last display that they discovered. Amusingly, they purposefully undermined their own terrible nature by producing what they refer to as the propagation of nutritious content, as their impact through strategic exhibits of what they refer to as the Council. Silence while this information is processed. When Vexer finally spoke, the conclusion was evidently humanity has mastered biological IC for environmental adaptation, regeneration, and psychological combat. By use of MTIC manipulation, they have consumption of domesticated apex predators' poisons for enjoyment and view battle as leisure. And most horrifyingly, they all do this while keeping a feeling of joke aside. "What should we do?" questioned the young counselor, who immediately feels remorse. For there, the only thing we can do is choose a career. Earth was declared a class by Vexer. Civilization and start paying respects. We are unable to quickly stop them from choosing to give them space or a story. Seriously, and the Galactic Council is no exception. Created their formal reply to the inadvertent demonstration by humanity of Dr. Blackwood was introducing dominance. Commander Martinez to an entity known as Videos of the Ghost Pepper Challenge. The incident report that would follow would be deemed too scary for the general. Presented by Dr. Zena Blackwood, observed extraterrestrial vessels unloading their 7th cargo hold of peace offerings. Presumably, the scream of humanity, often known as laughter, had truly left an effect. She at last carried out what a sane scientist would discover. Does she have a naturally occurring facepalm, a diplomatic incident in which a human evidences his humanity? The closest person yelled the winning gesture. A floating consciousness is delegated by aliens. They accept our claims in a containment suit. Zena began the tribute without waiting. But it was too late to look at how they hit themselves, celebrating such dominance and power. The delegates' awareness circulated in the respectful terror commander's patterns. Martinez arrived in time to see Zena slam her head onto the closest wall in annoyance, which only served to make the delegates more enthusiastic about Dr. Blackwood. Stated, looking over the most recent classification of the Galactic Council's update on his tablet, I wanted to let you know that we've been perhaps upgraded from Class X, Apex Civilization, at the Omega level species handled really carefully, and Zena, ideally from another star system, asked him, "How's that?" with a coffee in hand. Even a legitimate classification that they established for us. In particular, he showed her the document that seems to demonstrate our capacity to willingly influence our own brain structures that were undamaged. The decisive element that someone displayed, oh my God. Those parkour videos do believe we can take off now that the circumstances have developed outside their own spheres of influence. The docking bays at the station were full, rare minerals, an alien tribute to cutting-edge technology, and what seemed to be a number of holy objects. That 3 distinct species were already engaged in combat for the honor of donating to the commander of humanity and his assistant called the Rexy over the intercom. The Confederacy is curious if you'd acknowledge the tranquility of their 3rd moon. Additionally, the Kalari sent additional Zolon and their ceremonial crystals. Empire wants us to think about not encroaching on them in return for their... The quantum computer, Martinez's technology, eventually broke through. The ridiculousness of it all caused me to start giggling. The station reverberated with the sound. Halls dispatches foreign ambassadors in the area. Going on the defensive positions, the commander gives the someone yell. Quickly, dominance call, give them more honors. I've heard they can run indefinitely and consume liquid painkillers. Martinez was crying and laughing uncontrollably. Tears were pouring down his face while he observed 3 distinct extraterrestrial species attempt to honor one another with progressively more complex offerings. You are aware of what he ultimately accomplished between, let's just go with the flow, sir. I mean, consider this. They're actually providing us with cutting-edge technologies, since we laugh at, drink coffee, and keep cats. He wiped his eyes. And we might as well accept being the space of the galaxy. Speaking of cats, Orc's helper added the therapeutic animal from the station. Program is now known as our Elite Zena, examined the Predator Command Unit. Her coffee. Followed by the expanding stack of homage to Martine, who was still laughing occasionally, is nice. But I'm not describing to the council the reasons why some items are similar to pineapple on pizza. Beyond the comprehension of aliens, and so humanity, via a sequence of getting more and more absurd misunderstandings, were portrayed as the most scary species in the galaxy, is the fact that they only thought this was funny, which strengthened their intimidating reputation as for Commander Martinez and Dr. Blackwood. Eventually, they created a program for interspecies cultural exchange that primarily entailed displaying alien cats, demonstrating to them through movies that dabbing the ghost made a sacred earth gesture. pepper incident, but it still exists, classified even now.